NBC News World Headquarters in New York. This is NBC Nightly News with Kate Snow.
Good evening. Mardi Gras celebrations are in full swing in New Orleans tonight, just 24 hours after a terrifying scene as a driver lost control and veered into a crowd, injuring dozens. The New Orleans police superintendent says the truck driver appeared to be highly intoxicated. He faces multiple charges tonight. Some local residents have complained for years about traffic being allowed so near to that parade route. A report tonight from Sarah Dolph in New Orleans.
Fear, chaos, and confusion in the middle of a Mardi Gras celebration.
Everybody was trying to help one another, trying to get them to make sure everybody was all right. And it's something like you would have seen in a movie.
One of New Orleans' famed parades torn apart when a pickup truck plowed into a crowd after hitting several vehicles, including a dump truck. Local station WVUE recorded this video as the driver of the truck was taken into custody.
Put him in your car. It appears that it's a subject who was highly intoxicated, who struck a number of vehicles and then veered off, hitting a whole bunch of innocent people.
Police say 25-year-old Nielsen Rizzuto had a blood alcohol level nearly 3 times the legal limit.
There were people there. There were real human beings standing there.
Among the 28 people hurt, authorities say, a 1-year-old child and a female police officer. Tonight, neighbors and business owners along the parade route say it's time to increase security.
Do you think it's time to close off roads to traffic during parades?
Right, now's the time. This sends a clear message that this has to be done. You've got a parade going on a few feet from families, and you've got active traffic there immediately adjacent to a parade route.
The city's mayor says police were prepared to handle an emergency like yesterday's.
Every time you have this many people gathered, you're always trying to protect against a terrorist attack. This goes to the issue of how prepared cities are now for massive events like this.
And officials tonight emphasizing that every available city police officer, supplemented by law enforcement from neighboring agencies, is on the street tonight protecting crowds. Meanwhile, 3 of the injured remain hospitalized. This as suspect Nielsen Rizzuto is scheduled to make his first appearance before a judge during the hour. Kate.
Sarah Dolph down in New Orleans, thank you. There is growing debate tonight over whether a special prosecutor should be appointed to investigate possible ties between Trump campaign officials and Russia after one prominent Republican in Congress called for an outside investigation. The president and his aides were pushing back on that today. At the same time, a new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll today finds that the president's approval rating is 44%. That's a record low for a new president. Kelly O'Donnell is at the White House tonight.
For the Trump White House, one word is an instant flashpoint: Russia.
Russia is fake news. This is fake news put out by the media.
Today, the president lamented again. Russia talk is fake news put out by the Dems and played up by the media in order to mask the big election defeat and the illegal leaks. At issue, the intelligence community already determined Russian hackers did interfere with the 2016 campaign. But still under investigation, did Trump campaign associates have improper contacts with figures in Russia? Today, the White House said no.
I think the real easy answer here is that the FBI has already said this story is BS. Those are their words.
Ratcheting up the tension, on Friday, California Republican Congressman Darrell Issa suggested that a special counsel, not the Attorney General, should oversee the Russia investigation.
You cannot have somebody, a friend of mine, Jeff Sessions, who was on the campaign and who is an appointee. You're going to need to use the special prosecutor's statute and office.
But other Republicans disagreed and said a special prosecutor is a step too far.
The Justice Department over the course of time has shown itself with the professionals that are there to have the ability to investigate these type of things.
Briefed by FBI Director Comey, Senator Tom Cotton says the Bureau's work on this is counterintelligence, not a criminal probe.
There's no allegations of any crime occurring. There's not even an indication that there's criminal investigations underway by the FBI.
But after the White House acknowledged it urged the FBI to discredit news reports, and chairman of the Intelligence Committees said they were asked to help as well, Democrats insist that crosses a line.
You have seen a flurry of activities that are completely inappropriate. Let's have the investigation and find out the truth.
While questions about Russia are a distraction for this administration, advisors say the president spent part of his weekend working on a draft of a very high-profile speech, his first joint address before Congress for Tuesday night. They say he'll talk about what he's done in the first 5 weeks and look ahead for the next year, including ideas like tax reform. Kate?
Kelly O'Donnell for us at the White House. Kelly, thanks. Our new poll also reinforces just how divided Americans are as the Trump presidency starts to take shape. For more on that, we're joined in our D.C. bureau by our senior political editor, Mark Murray. Mark, what do we see in these numbers?
Yeah, Kate, we're seeing perfect polarization. 86% of Republicans approve of President Trump's job performance, and they compare that to 86% of Democrats who disapprove. Now, independents are slightly more negative than positive, which explains Donald Trump's overall approval numbers. He can take some solace in the fact that his base, at least, is standing by him. And the record low approval rating that we just mentioned for President Trump, how does that compare to other presidencies at this point? Yeah, to put that in perspective, Barack Obama didn't reach 44% in our NBC Wall Street Journal poll until August of 2011 after that debt stealing standoff. And George W. Bush didn't hit that number until afterwards after Hurricane Katrina. All right, Mark Murray down in Washington. Mark, thanks. And as the president continues his attacks on news organizations, one of them is using this highly visible Oscar night to fight back on the issue of truth. The New York Times is running a 30-second commercial tonight, its first ever during the Academy Awards, with a series of contradictory statements on various issues. It ends with the statements that the truth is hard to know, and more important now than ever. For his part, the president tweeted about that ad today with more criticism of the New York Times. That is just one example of how politics and controversy will likely share the spotlight tonight at the Academy Awards. Steve Patterson takes a look.
It's Oscar night. In the middle of the glitz and glamour, this year's award season has taken a more political turn. Meryl Streep at the Golden Globes calling out President Trump without ever saying his name for seemingly mocking a reporter with a disability.
This instinct to humiliate, when it's modeled by someone in the public platform, by someone powerful, it filters down into everybody's life.
The president, who has repeatedly denied making fun of the reporter's disability, fired back on Twitter, calling Streep overrated. Streep could be back on stage tonight. She's nominated for her role in Florence Foster Jenkins. Also nominated, Mahershala Ali for his role in Moonlight. Ali, who is Muslim, talked about inclusion at the Screen Actors Guild Awards.
There's an opportunity to see the texture of that person, the characteristics that make them unique. And then there's an opportunity to go to war about it.
Hollywood celebrities, their filmmakers, all the nominees this year feel that they're speaking for the country and for the world, not just for the bubble that Hollywood exists in.
All of the directors nominated in the Best Foreign Film category issued a joint statement criticizing the political tone in the U.S., saying regardless of the winner, they would dedicate the award to global unity. Asghar Farhadi, Iranian director of The Salesman, is boycotting the Oscars after President Trump's temporary travel ban targeting predominantly Muslim countries. He issued a video statement during a screening of his film in London.
We are all citizens of the world, and I will try to protect and spread this unity.
Tonight, as Hollywood heralds the very best of the silver screen, expect the big moments to go a bit off script, with speaking out once again taking center stage. Well, the president will likely not watch the Oscars tonight, at least not live. The White House press secretary says the first family is instead focused on hosting the governor's dinner. Kate?
Steve Patterson out in Hollywood for us. Steve, thanks. Among those who will be remembered at the Oscars tonight, actor Bill Paxton, whose sudden death was announced today. In a career that lasted 4 decades, he played so many memorable roles. Jacob Rascone takes a look back.
Whether he was playing a bit part or commanding the lead role, Bill Paxton left an indelible mark on Hollywood. In the 1980s, playing characters killed by a Terminator and an alien. Rising to fame in the 90s as the passionate storm chaser in the film Twister.
I think we're going in!
And the greedy fortune hunter in Titanic.
It's payday, boys.
Paxton also had memorable TV roles, including as polygamous Bill Henriksen in the HBO series Big Love.
I just went to see her.
You had no right to do that.
In real life, the Texas native witnessed history among the crowd watching JFK give a speech in Fort Worth the day the president was assassinated. Paxton later narrated a documentary about Kennedy's final hours. Today, his family revealed the 61-year-old actor died after an operation, saying, "It is with heavy hearts we share the news that Bill Paxton has passed away due to complications from surgery." The family didn't specify the type of surgery or any health problems.
For somebody in their early 60s, it's very uncommon for them to die because of surgical complications. But that depends on what kind of surgery they're going in for. If it's a higher risk surgery, heart, liver, lung type surgery, that puts them at a higher risk of dying or complications.
Just 2 weeks ago, Paxton was full of energy on NBC's Last Call with Carson Daly, calling himself a working actor.
You see big stars who work all the time, and you know, I've never had that one movie that really put it all together for me.
Paxton leaves behind 2 children and Louise, his wife of 30 years. Jacob Rascone, NBC News, Dallas.
And another familiar face on television died today. Judge Joseph Wapner, the first star of the reality courtroom series The People's Court from 1981 to 1993. He appeared in almost 2,500 episodes. Judge Wapner was 97 years old. The Trump administration is reportedly planning to issue an executive order aimed at helping historically black colleges and universities. Many of these colleges, which have played a vital role in educating African Americans, are in a fight for survival now. A report from NBC's Ron Allen.
Amid all those abandoned buildings in Atlanta is Morris Brown College, struggling to recover after a financial scandal, lost accreditation a decade ago. Just 40 students enrolled.
This building was built in 1860s.
College President Stanley Pritchard shows us where W.E.B. Du Bois, renowned scholar and activist, worked. You don't see this as a disaster?
I don't see this as a disaster. I see this as an opportunity for us to really be a game changer.
In its heyday, thousands of graduates. Now, an extreme example of the challenges facing America's 100 or so historically black colleges and universities. 9 now celebrating 150-year anniversaries. Iconic grads from Oprah Winfrey to Martin Luther King. But most are little known. Claflin University, Bluefield State, with many academically and financially disadvantaged students. Yet still ladders to the middle class. Just 3% of all colleges producing 17% of African Americans with bachelor's degrees. 24% of scientists and engineers. Now looking forward to upcoming meetings with President Trump, who has said he wants to help.
We have a few bright spots in the community, but by and large, the overall sector is struggling. The underfunding problem cannot be understated.
That includes even prestigious schools like Morehouse. Enrollment was down here for a time.
Yeah.
For 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
Its president says schools need to focus on preparing students for the new economy, technology, engineering, and step up alumni fundraising. You think some are going to disappear?
Oh, I do. And our job here is to make sure that Morehouse is one of the ones that's around.
Students insist HBCUs are still necessary. You left Harvard to come here.
I wanted to come to a school that I felt more suitable for me.
In 2017, we still need this safe space in America.
Even the students left at Morris Brown say it fits their needs.
Everybody wants to see you grow, and they're trying their best. They're pushing forward.
A proud institution like its fellow HBCUs, hoping for new support to continue educating another generation of leaders. Ron Allen, NBC News, Atlanta.
It has been a championship season for a young wrestler in Texas who won a state title this weekend and happens to be transgender. But he was forced to compete as a member of the girls' wrestling team. We get details tonight from Morgan Radford.
Mixed in with the cheers, a chorus of boos. 17-year-old Mac Beggs won the Texas State Championship for girls wrestling in the 110-pound class. But he's a transgender boy.
We trained hard every single day, and that's where the spotlight should have been on.
But the spotlight is on him. Mac is taking testosterone as part of his hormone therapy, which some say gives him an unfair advantage.
Whatever reason, doesn't matter. It's here nor there. They are huge, and it's not fair.
A father of one of the female wrestlers filed an injunction to keep Mac from competing with the girls, but it was denied. The University Interscholastic League in Texas, which determines the rules for high school wrestlers, says the state allows steroid use for a valid medical purpose and says that each wrestler's gender will be determined based on a student's birth certificate. A rule some say is outdated, especially since Mack wants to compete in the boys' competition.
It's not fair for that individual that wants to transition and wrestle boys, and it's not fair for the female wrestlers.
This comes as transgender rights have been getting more national attention. Just last week, the Trump administration reversed federal protections for transgender students in public schools that had allowed them to choose bathrooms that match their gender identities.
When it comes to gender, who has the right to choose and who should protect that choice?
In the ideal world, every athlete should be able to compete with the gender with which they identify. But when a sporting body does not have trans-inclusive policies, it creates a really unfortunate dynamic.
Back in Texas, many of Mack's classmates are rallying behind him.
It shouldn't matter what gender you are. It should matter how much you're willing to work for it.
I think he should do whatever he wants to do and be whatever he wants to be.
What he wants is to be recognized for who he is. Morgan Radford, NBC News, New York.
The number is staggering. Americans are carrying $1.3 trillion in debt from student loans. For some, it can mean they have to delay buying a home for years. But one state has come up with an innovative solution. Jolene Kent has more.
When newly engaged Jasmine Townsell and Brian Hawkins set out to buy their first home, balancing their budget was the top priority.
My main concern about getting married was bringing in tons of student loan debt to the marriage.
Townsell had $37,000 in student loan debt.
So I'm like, we're gonna have to get a cheaper home because I don't wanna, put more onus on you to pay.
When they found a listing for their dream townhouse in Maryland, it came with an unlikely surprise. If they bought it, the state of Maryland would pay off her student loans.
This definitely convinced us that we really could afford a house.
The new Maryland program is called Smart Buy.
The millennials, they're not buying homes. We thought, there's a way that we can address this.
The state sells renovated foreclosed homes it took on during the mortgage crisis. If you buy one, Maryland pays off student loan debt of up to 15% of the home's value.
We sort of created a discount on the pricing of the home so that when the student debt was embedded in it, it would be at the market value.
Townsell and Hawkins' home cost $205,000. Marilyn paid off $30,000 of her loans. The couple paid off the remaining $7,000, then put up a $10,000 down payment.
What is the catch then?
There's really no catch. There's they can't dispose of the property in 5 months and sort of flip it. Because we're paying off a significant amount of money, we want to make sure that they're here for a certain duration, and 5 years is that time period.
Meaning fewer foreclosed homes maintained by the government and an incentive for graduates to stay in state.
It's very hard to save for a down payment on a home when the home prices are increasing. It's moving the goalpost, essentially.
Today, Townsell and Hawkins pay their mortgage with the money once budgeted for her student loan.
When you saw that zero, how'd it feel?
And I'm like, oh my goodness, it was really exciting.
Financial freedom to start their next chapter under a new roof. Jolene Kent, NBC News, Bel Air, Maryland.
Finally tonight, a positive, life-changing experience that began in tragedy for a woman who survived a terrible car crash and is now walking in the footsteps of the man who helped save her. From Alabama, NBC's Tammy Leitner on how they would meet again 15 years later.
It was horrific.
Erica Samuels has never spoken about that day when a drunk driver slammed into her car.
He's dead. He's dead.
She watched that driver die as medics rushed to save her life.
The glass was everywhere. All I can recall was the pain, the agony. I just wanted somebody to make it stop.
Nurse Philip Strait still remembers the injured young woman named Erica that he took care of almost 15 years ago.
I have a handful of patients that just really stick out.
Recently, while attending an event at his alma mater, he saw this.
Our staff, our administrators, our professors.
Everything just came rushing back the whole night, the details from the night, and I knew that was her.
Their emotional reunion caught on camera.
I almost lost my life that night. And to have someone who cared about me while my parents were there, he gave me more than nursing care. He actually gave me life.
It was just a lot of raw emotion at that point. I remember exactly where your bruises were, from the wreck. And I remember all the glass, and I remember holding your hand.
The accident and that time in the hospital changed Erica.
for someone to care about me, a complete stranger, that changed me. I mean, it impacted me so much that I decided to take a new career path. I decided to go back to school. Straight up.
Now, just months away from graduating nursing school, she hopes to get a job at the same hospital as Philip.
You're more than a nurse to me. You were more than a nurse that night. You didn't have to do what you did. Had you not been my nurse, I don't even know where I'd be today.
And maybe change a life the way he changed hers. Tammy Leitner, NBC News, Mobile, Alabama.
And that is NBC Nightly News for this Sunday night. Lester Holt will be in tomorrow. I'm Kate Snow reporting from New York. I'll see you tomorrow on MSNBC from Washington. For all of us here at NBC News, have a great night.